Beautiful.
Perfect.
I'm glad we made it.
Yes, finally. All right, so what about starting with a little orientation today?
Yeah, let's settle in, and whoever's watching to get that dropping in, and questions can arise from there.
Yeah,
And let's start.
exactly. So basically, this is a very simple way to start just grounding a little bit. And first of all, just nothing needs to happen. It's all anything is everything is information, so nothing needs to happen in these practices. And if it does, then it's great. So first of all, just starting to sit and notice your contact points, your sit bones, and if it feels good, maybe pressing into your feet, to the floor, to wherever you are. And just notice what it's like to be you right now. So, is there anything present, anything that you notice, sense, or feel in your body right now? Just notice. Everything is simply information. It's nothing to be changed or adjusted. And staying with the sensation that arises, you can start looking around wherever you're in, wherever the space you're in. So just let your gaze kind of roam around the objects, the walls, the anything that is around you, surrounding you. Just curiously, without giving things any particular story, but just notice where your gaze wants to go to. Almost like you're seeing this place for the first time. Just noticing if the gaze wants to stay on some object or is attracted by something specific and wants to linger there. Just follow that intuition if there is anything like that that pops up. Maybe noticing how it feels to stay in relation with whatever object that or thing that your attention is with. Just to kind of have this awareness that everything around you is made out of nature. So everything is, might not seem like a natural object, but it is made out of metal coming from earth or out of wood coming from the trees or any other material eventually coming from earth as well. And maybe sensing that you are right now in a sort of relation with that object. Maybe sensing or feeling how that suggestion feels in your body as I'm saying these words. Maybe there is a sense of softening or a sense of trust, or maybe nothing. Whatever it is, it's again simple information. And as you're staying with this object or thing that you're looking at, also orienting towards the time of the year, the season, the energy right now. And just remembering that you are orienting not only to the physical, but also to the timeline and to the natural cycle that is happening around you. Just to have that reminder that you are an integral part of this cycle. And again, just noticing, sensing, or feeling if there is anything that these words create in your body, maybe a feeling, visuals, warmth, cold, anything to notice. Just staying with it for a bit. Staying for a little longer with the sensation. Maybe bringing your awareness back to your sit bones, to the feet. Having again that sense of grounding, a sense of stability coming from your natural structure, your skeleton, the bones that hold you. And just sensing when you feel that you're naturally completing this exploration. If there's anything your body feels like doing, movements or stretch or anything else, just give it to yourself. A big sigh. I saw those shoulders drop a little bit more. Very nice. And taking all the time you need to come back. Nice.
Beautiful.
How did that feel?
Ah, good to slow down the thoughts,
Yeah, right? It's just a simple,
unplugging
it's a
from the
simple thing we
stressful.
usually use to start the practices. It has simple but very effective usually.
Yes. And I think it's great to, give that experience of what it takes to reflect, that we actually are able to feel and zoom out of our heads and realign ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
yeah, as we're diving right in,
Yeah.
I would actually also like to put a little something to the beginning of the session, and we can maybe feel again into our intention for sharing this, because you are
Yeah.
an expert in somatics and many more modalities, helping people with their boundaries and to actually know, what do I want, who am I, and
Exactly.
yeah, bringing that also into our relational sphere, which is what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a lot, where we are applying this or where we get triggered
Yeah.
and challenged.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing that I use a lot, which is just a tool in a way from psychology, because if we're thinking that,
Mm.
let's say, a belief is like a rule, it's like a set mechanism, like on a computer, we have it as well in our brains, that tells you to look out in your outer environment for certain things that make you feel safe or the lack thereof. So if we just close our eyes for 1 second and you mentally say to yourself and prime yourself, prime your system, and just allow yourself to be surprised by your own self in this conversation, what's coming up, to find out something new about yourself. Maybe just mentally say, I allow myself to understand my patterns deeper. I allow myself to understand the people in my life just a little bit more. And I allow myself to shift my perspectives and to choose again, to see it differently. And with that, being very detached, just a choice, an invitation that in the course of our conversation, something can pop up that maybe you hadn't thought of in this way before, but something that can be a key to unlock a deeper sense of connection with yourself and others, with your partner maybe, or the future partner. And then you can open your eyes and let it go.
Nice. Love it. It's really opening up the horizons of what's possible. It's a very...
And it does neurologically, it primes your brain to go in a new loop, or to be a little bit more zoomed out, to see like a bird's eye view. So it kind of really primes your system, how you operate. It's so simple, and yet it kind of has these deeper effects on the whole body.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. And I think the key to all of this is to be in that state, in that relaxed state, where you can slow down. In yoga, we say the ripples of the lake to see the real image underneath, because otherwise we can't access that. We're not in a place to be able to communicate with the subconscious, essentially. So it's all about the peace of mind, actually. I think it all boils down to this, right?
Yeah, and who's running the show? Is it your
Mm.
automatic responses, your fight flight system, or the
Yeah,
freezing? Or
exactly.
the relaxation is like the I'm safe. I'm safe
Yeah,
and I'm safe with you. And that's the foundation of any inner work,
absolutely.
whatever the modality, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. It's like as soon as you go into those states of stress, whether fight or flight, or so freeze, actually, freeze is also almost like a dissociation. If it's like you're here, you seem calm, but you're actually not there, you're kind of going away.
Mm.
Your mind is going away, or it's almost like a flight response in that sense. And yeah, and these mechanisms turn on, and if we're not aware of them, we don't know how to um, replace a source of safety other than that mechanism, then they will turn on, and again, we're not able to access it. So yeah, being able to access calm is key. I think it's that the entry point to any work on yourself. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's this kind of thing. You can start wherever you are. You don't have to be a Zen Buddhist master.
Yeah.
You can reorient yourself even if your feet are moving, or even if your brain is very active. So there's no seeking of perfection in all this.
Exactly.
I
It
loved
is.
how you gave that allowance of whatever you find. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
exactly. That's maybe one of the first things I say in those sessions is basically there's nothing that needs to happen. Nothing has to happen, but if it does, it's just exploration. It's just we're just curiously looking inward, and anything that comes up is information. Even nothingness is information. Even nothing comes up is also could lead to maybe thinking maybe you have a freeze, or these are things to also explore. So anything is information, and what that does usually is that calms down the striver that we have in us, that is so taught to perform, even in these kind of practices. When we have that striver, it's so ingrained, and I know that in myself as well, is that, oh, am I supposed to be feeling this, or am I supposed to be like getting to this result? Let me meditate harder, or like, this kind of approach to these modalities, because we're just bringing the striver or this protective part of us that we have into that process as well. So really telling people that nothing has to happen, you don't have to perform, nothing is really kind of this thing that makes people like release the grip a little bit before doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to speak a little bit to that, because I think it's so interesting and important, because we all have inner aspects, like we said the last time, like a tree, the younger parts of the tree, the 1 month
Yeah.
old little tiny tree stem that grows to 100-year-old tree.
Yeah.
It's not hollow inside. Everything that's lived before is there, and so we are. And if we have these responses, and they might not be so logical that we can explain, like, why do I have this blockage in my throat and I can't tell my partner how I really feel. But if you then come with acceptance and allowance, and you know there's actually a need underneath that, it's myself that is less conscious talking to myself, that then there's usually a bit more compassion and allowance, because these things can shift again when we're relaxing, when we're trusting.
Exactly. It's so true. It's opening the door for accessing these things. And yeah, and I mean, it's interesting how this actually, for me, how people notice these things, the awareness part, is always through relationships. I feel like this is the entry point, like, because that's where you start noticing yourself, like what we were saying, mirroring, right?
Mm.
It's they're becoming a mirror for you, and that's how you start noticing these things. But before relationships, you might develop yourself in isolation a little bit and realize some things, but nothing shows you those things more than relationships, I feel.
Oh yeah, I've done that personally. Oh my God. I was a long time single and I worked a lot on myself, being a psychologist and doing all these healing modalities, a lot of self-reflection, but the stuff didn't really come up. It wasn't triggered in that way with friends, just because
Yeah.
there's an easier way out, or you choose naturally the people that don't trigger you. And it's
Hmm.
really true that also, especially when you're dating someone and it becomes more serious, then a
Hmm.
whole new box of old stored up things from yourself are being projected, and then you see it coming up. So it's not necessarily it's all me, but it's
Yeah.
my whole generational DNA information, traumas of myself, my parents, what I've experienced with culture, all these things, poof. And yeah, and then
Exactly.
people really see, oh my God, there's a lot there and the need is there, that we change
Yeah.
it because we want to usually keep that partner.
Yeah, it's that. And also, I also see that you notice it in repetition. Like in the cases, if you don't address it,
Yeah,
like if you do not address it, then usually what happens in those cases is
it comes
you
back.
go out of a relationship, you blame everything on the other person. And then you're like, oh, they were a horrible person. They were this and that and this and that. And then
Comes back
even
bigger
though
and
you
louder.
even maybe stay single for a bit and then you go back into a relationship and then that's just the same person, but then in another vessel. Because,
Yeah, or you it reveals itself only after a certain time, because
yeah,
you look for what you want, which is sometimes also a wishful thinking syndrome, that I project the
yeah,
perfect person onto the other one.
yeah.
And it's interesting, how we repeat our own patterns, because no one does that because it's fun, isn't it?
No, but that again is that's a very interesting mechanism, and it's something that I'm actually following this yoga nidra course these days, and we're going really into the subconscious functioning and programming. And I mean, I think you know way more about this, but it's interesting the way that basically the subconscious or the nervous system, we can talk about it as well, they prefer something that is familiar, um, and that it knows how to cope with, even if it's not ideal. It knows it can survive in those even horrible situations sometimes. It's sometimes people really experienced horrible things in their lives, but they know how to cope with those things, so they kind of look for those things again,
Yeah,
even though it's not ideal. But it's just how the system works,
mechanism.
because it has found this equilibrium in this horrible situation. But it can change, but for that, like, change itself is such an effort. It's such a reorganization.
Yeah,
It's such
and
a
that's what I want to
high,
speak into, like, because it's not just
yeah,
organization, it's the survival that's being threatened, a need
exactly.
that we program our whole system to, I cope with this, but I want to take it a step further. Like, for example, if your mother always neglected your emotions and mom was very much in, I have to work, and very practical, just a random example.
Hmm.
And you might take the lesson very subconsciously, well, I must be easygoing, and in a way also I'm overlooked. I'm not really seen here. then you go forward in life and you don't even know probably that you are just assuming this truth about yourself. And you meet your first boyfriend, and maybe you attract a very busy person, and he's too busy with playing sports or starting his first job. Everything else seems to be more important. He doesn't really see you. And you also think, I have to be low maintenance. So you keep reenacting, but you feel this pain of, I'm not being seen, and you don't feel loved. And to actually start to question, does this have to be this way? Because usually what we do is we blame the person, say, well, I've got to find a different
Yeah.
partner who can see me. But we got to start seeing ourselves first and realizing that this theater around us doesn't have to keep on rolling in the same way, but we
Exactly.
can rewrite the script. And I love how, all these different modalities look at this
Help with
mountain from a different
that.
perspective, which is what you do with your beautiful modalities.
Exactly. It's the same approach actually, and essentially it's to rep I posted this reel recently. I had this idea of posting this Indiana Jones where he's replacing a golden egg with something else. Like he's swiping the thing for the safety mechanism not to go on.
Yeah.
And literally I thought that's a little bit like that because you need to replace the old thing with something new so that the system feels safe still.
Yeah.
It doesn't turn on the security, like the safety mechanism on.
That's the thing, because sometimes our pain is our motivation. Our subconscious sometimes thinks, if it's all rosy and butterflies, I lose my strive, or I am not this or that anymore. Like, and it's this
Mm,
funny subconscious assumption that you have to address. And once you
yeah,
realize or address it in a session of some sort, then you can tell yourself in your system, I can be here. This can be a new reality, but I'm still myself, and I'm still having these beautiful
yeah.
traits of seeking deep connection, even though my partner might be more open. Or there's these
Mhm.
weird, unlogical, unrealistic fears around getting what we want.
Exactly. And the thing is that once we change our stance,
Hmm.
what it does usually, it reflects itself in the other person. So like if we change, or but by change in very practice ways, in very tangible ways, we start expressing our needs when they arise. We start shutting off. We're more vulnerable about what we feel. Maybe we don't have these. If we know that, oh, if I express what I feel, I'm gonna be rejected, or I'm gonna be, something's gonna bad's gonna happen. If we remove those blocks and we actually go vulnerable, say what we feel, say what we need, and suddenly this will change the other person's relationship to us as well. And if it doesn't, then that's maybe a sign that in those cases, maybe we need to change or look into other way, like other solutions, right? But usually, if that person is in a loving relationship with us and committed, they will try to also pivot towards us in this new connection, right?
Yeah.
So it
So I love
starts with us.
what you say about it starts with us, but also what you said earlier about the lake, of
Yeah.
like, we have to look at ourselves and not be a hypocrite and say, you need to see me, but what can I do
Mm,
to see myself, and maybe also to see him? Maybe I'm not seeing my partner, I'm projecting this perfect mask onto him.
yeah,
And if we're having all of these confusions, then we are really muddy lake, or too much movement to see what's me, what's the other person. And once you
exactly.
implement these changes over time, you give your partner a couple weeks, a couple months to move through these waves and layers of different
Hmm.
topics that might be underneath that. And then, really, if after some time you both give an effort and you really realize this partner isn't for me, then you might part ways, but it won't be in a nasty way. It won't be a breakup where suddenly
Yeah,
everyone is turning into this monster and it's this hurtful experience. There can be, I think, if we're doing it in a conscious way, even breakups that serve both people, where there's so much love and gratitude and a sharing
yeah.
and a talking, that it
Oh
elevates
yeah,
both people, and opens your heart, and you will be in a better place finding your new partner, because there won't be this
exactly.
wounding and this confusion and holding on to this, oh my God, a next person mustn't touch this wound, and therefore they will actually tap into it 100 times more, just by the law of attraction.
Exactly, exactly. It's so true. Because at the end, it's about removing masks. It's not about putting more masks on. So if by removing your masks, you realize it's not the right person, then it means that it wasn't the right person from the start because it was a person that was there for the mask, not for you. So basically, going into this truth is always beneficial.
Yeah.
And that's what we've learned over the years to avoid, but actually the reality is the opposite. Is actually everything becomes softer, everything becomes
Yeah,
more
what we
aligned.
learn is usually the shutdown responses that we get from our parents, grandparents, on and on and on and
Yeah.
on and on, when maybe the outer world wasn't giving us the resources to feel into our emotions because there was a crisis outside.
Hmm.
But we would need to realize we're all pretty safe. We're so blessed
Yeah,
that we don't have to struggle with, outer threats in that sense, like hundreds of
absolutely.
years ago. So we can
Absolutely.
undo those masks quite literally and just
Hmm.
relate from interest and a genuine sharing.
Yeah, so true. And you know what? Something comes to my mind right now of some so it's one of the somatic practitioners for my course. She actually works with animals as well. So
Oh,
she does somatics with pets, with animals, veterinarian kind of situations as well. Um, and the interesting thing she says and observes is that animals have they're generally they have obviously the same ups and downs in the nervous system, like activation and fight or flight or relax, rest and digest. But when they have that, they're usually much faster in coming back
mm,
towards a situation of safety from a heightened situation
yeah.
because they don't stay in their heads.
They don't hold grudges, no.
No, they don't go into imagination about a potential scenario, a potential situation. They're really more in the present situation. So once the threat is really gone, like physically in the physical world around them, it is also gone in their system.
Yes,
They're
it's
much faster to um,
that what you're speaking
reconnect.
to, yes, and they actually move it, emotion, motion, move it. So when
Motion,
animals
yes.
do it, animals and children, when they get traumatized, they usually, when they're healthy, they just start shaking. And
Yeah,
the tremor is moving it. What do we
exactly.
wonderful adults do? We toughen up and we usually stiffen up and we don't really
Yep.
let it move the system. Even
Yeah.
if anger is there to tap into some grief or sadness or disappointment. So if we tap into that and it moves, we actually are left in a more opened up space. But if we toughen and create this armor, then it becomes a very heavy suit to wear.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
It
presence of
is,
emotions is crazy important.
yeah, it is this control, isn't it? It's basically, for me, like it all boils down to have this grip on things, trying to control things and not let it flow in the natural rhythm. The more you control, the
Mm.
more you stay stuck at a certain part of the nervous system fluctuation, right? So either at the top level, at the bottom level.
And that's where we
Um,
come back to this
yeah,
safety and trusting the body, right?
yeah,
Trusting our feet and that we're stable. And if we're balancing, there's a certain sense of self-trust that comes
yeah,
from doing, but also how often are we tapping into our bodies? And that's why yoga, somatics, all these things are super important because they practice
yeah,
when we're not triggered. They practice these fundamental things of grounding, of opening, of maybe turning upside down, all these
yeah,
perspective
exactly.
changes. It's quite literal. And
Yeah,
I
and,
love
and
these practices.
absolutely. And also turning off the cognitive mind a little bit,
Yeah,
staying away from it because this machine is able to simulate situations which create again those triggers that we have. Because imagination at the end is for the mind, it doesn't change whether it's reality or imagined, right? So it's literally it the reactions, the physiological reactions to whatever is imagined can be the same as whatever is real. So again, it's about manipulating in a way or hacking or whatever you want to call it, whatever is happening in your head and
totally
teaching your
managing.
mind
Yeah.
to show you things that first of all, turning it off sometimes, but then also showing you the things that serve you, not the things that actually go in your detriment.
And that we're full circle again to the priming, because
Yeah.
what you just said speaks into, if I am looking out for threats, I will be very narrowly focused. Even when I meet a person, I will scan maybe more only the facial features or the shoulders or the hands
Yeah.
to recognize the threat. When are they closing off and I need to protect myself? And we don't even know we do that. Once, if we look around, we open up, the eyes are connected to our brain, connected to
Mhm.
our vagus nerve, and then we start to breathe deeper, we're safer, and we notice all of the other subtleties of their maybe body expression, but also the tone of the voice, the look on their face, and we can reinterpret the person and what they're doing and how they're doing it in a completely new way. So it's that priming again. What are we focusing on, and can we select it? Can we choose in which mode we are?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. So interesting how we can, just by coming out of these fight or flight responses, we can see a whole new world. It's basically our vision broadens. Our
It
vision
does.
broadens.
And I think we all notice, like I, for example, I don't live in my home country. And
Hmm.
I think whenever in the beginning I went back home, I would perceive people quite as stiff or angry looking. And of course, some people are in the loop and they maybe have a tough day, and they won't have time for
Hmm.
smiles. If you travel and then you get used to people saying hi, having time for you, if you need to ask a question on the road, or they just start a conversation because they're interested and positive. But once you look out for these things and that's normal, you bring that back into the old environment.
Yeah,
So this kind of learning and seeing yourself, not just it's the outer change, but also me inside. I've now learned that there is nice people out there and that I can ask a question without someone saying that I'm dumb, or cursing me that I stole their time. So once we go with this experience into that old environment, we meet those couple of people who actually will be, gladly assisting us if we lost our way, or
yeah,
we need something, and we have to ask a stranger for help. It applies to any situation.
it's incredible. Like basically, it's again that coming back to once we change us, we change the our surrounding world. And even if it's not just the relationship, it's also in the everything. And I have the word manifestation coming to my head, but
Mm.
I mean, it's just how it works, I guess. It's basically changing you and then the surrounding world. It's just by the things
Do
that you start
you
to notice.
want to, I don't know if I'm overstepping, but would you like to give a little example from your own personal journey, how you kind
Yeah.
of shifted yourself and then things aligned?
So it's basically how you start noticing things differently and how when you start to see situation from a different perspective or relationship from a different perspective, instead of looking at the other person, what they've done or how they behaved previously, and how this is wrong and for you, etc., but instead starting to look into, even in retrospective, in my case it's a lot in retrospective, but still, I now see, with my new understanding of myself and with the work I've done on myself, and I see how previous relationships, what happened in those situations much better right
Mm.
now. Like I understand why they happen and what my role was in this dynamic much better, which in the, let's say, when I came out of it, I wouldn't see that, right? But now I see it. And I think this will definitely serve me for any future partners, basically, because I go into it much more aware of myself and what I tend to do, what my protective mechanisms are, and what I created in the other person. So that's kind of like, I think up until now I have never like gotten such clarity on this. And yeah, I think it's let's see how it, like I don't have yet the, the vision on how it's actually applying in in the future, but we'll see how it does. But I'm sure it will, because I already feel the change in even like friendships and relationships that are not romantic relationships. I see even like another relationship that's very important for most people is the parents, right? So, and because it's like foundational for so many things. It's basically, I say, like uh, during the New Year's and the Christmas break, I was like posting some content around that, because this is basically the time where you go to your family, is where all the triggers come up.
Classic.
All of those
Classic.
original triggers come up. And yeah, and it's also, I see that change in that relationship as well, and an improvement in that relationship. It's a much more understanding relationship now, a calmer one as well, where we have less this animosity sometimes that we used to have with my mother. And yeah, it's I see, yeah, there's a lot of changes.
That's where we test if our somatic or subconscious work, if it
Mm,
ripples out to what we think, say, and do, and what we experience. That's when we really get results. So it's not this airy
yeah,
fairy, I'm feeling into everything, but this is how I want everyone to measure the success of any session, to notice, am I actually still getting triggered with the same thing, or I have a different possibility to respond,
yeah,
and maybe even I can turn it into humor and lightness and deeper connection,
yeah,
because I'm more open to be listening or taking that as
yeah,
an entry point to ask a question about them. So
exactly.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah, because you rewire your nervous system to be less reactive. Maybe it does still react a little bit. It's
Mm,
okay, actually. It's okay. It has to. It's not
literally,
supposed to.
yeah,
Another thing,
it's
it's not
closing the
supposed to be
cycle.
flat. Yeah,
It's important. We're
exactly.
closing the unfinished emotional cycle to go to
Exactly.
the trigger again. It feels in the body as if I'm repeating something. But
Yeah,
if I'm then able to find the relaxation again, only then it is stored in the body as this is
exactly.
safe now. I can handle this. And this is what
Yeah,
we want, right? To not have the
it's
fear,
exactly
oh
it.
my God, I must avoid this situation.
Yeah, it's rewriting over it. It's like a complete rewrite on top. And but yeah, as I wanted to say, it's like this fluctuation is important as well. So it's not about going flat and unreactive and Buddha and sitting and nothing happens.
Yeah,
It's not about that. Life will throw things at you. Life will become difficult at points, and it's just about the fact that you're now less going into extremes every time that it goes up. It
yeah,
doesn't stay up. It's actually safely going back down when it has to. And it doesn't stay down, stuck in like this freeze or this kind of stuckness place as well, because that's also something. We have the heightened states, but we also do have people staying in stuck in kind of apathy and I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, and I'm like this kind of situation that's more of a freeze or a kind of a apathy state, which is the
yeah.
opposite of this activation. That's also people stay stuck in that as well. And wherever you're stuck, you can, if your system starts to be more fluid, it starts to come out of it naturally and just, naturally doing its thing, basically.
That's right. And how to start, if we're thinking someone's listening right now, thinking, oh, that's me, to
Yeah,
literally start is to start slowly moving, breathing deeper, moving
yeah,
intentionally, going for walks when you think about something. Like quite literally, if I'm sitting in the same corner in the room trying to think my way out of a problem, how about I go outside, different view? Maybe I have that walking element, and it really affects our state of perception.
yeah.
So it brings
Oh,
you
yeah.
back out of that stuckness, freezing, numbing. So it's these literal, easy
Mm,
tools that are available to anyone, no matter how poor or rich you are. Anyone
exactly.
has that available, and that's the beautiful thing, that
Absolutely.
it's intelligently
And
wired.
another thing I thought of, like an example of that is a concrete example. For instance, if you start thinking of something, someone, or a situation and staying into that thinking, once you start notice, so again, it's awareness. Awareness is key, like starting to notice. So it's a bit of this, you're observing yourself. That state of, there is a word for it that I forget right now, but it's basically like where you stop associating yourself with your kind of thoughts, and you start to observe your thoughts from like an outsider and starting to know, oh, I'm going there again. And so if you're starting to notice, oh, I'm going there again, that's where you start having the choice of what your action about it is, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, for instance, you start to obsess or you start to think about something a lot, then you notice it and you start having that choice, like, okay, how do I bring my energy back to myself, or how do I put myself first, right? Again, and in that sense, you can, I don't know, like explore looking inward. Okay, I'm gonna go to do some shopping for myself, or like I'm gonna go um, do some self care or walk, like you said, or
Yeah, or
anything else that,
simply touch, right? Come back into
yeah,
the
or
body and
simply do
observe.
some physical simple practice or something like that. But whatever feels like this is what you need right now. And that's just that action of doing that, you build trust in yourself, you reliability, alignment, because you're actually taking care of your inner self.
Mm.
And that inner self feels that you're doing it. Like it builds that trust between your actions that you are doing towards yourself.
Yeah. And if we're applying this back to relationships, so often we
Mm.
outsource this, that I expect from my partner that they know
To
what I
do
mean.
that, and yeah,
But
yeah,
how about I tune in? And it's way harder because there's no right or wrong. I can't have this validation of that was the right thing to do. So we'll always
mm,
have to live with uncertainty. But as we build self trust, then
yeah,
our partner can add to it, but the heavy weight of them having to please us or satisfy us is not there. And the disbalance can
yes,
come back to we're on eye level and support each
yeah.
other.
Exactly. It's that visual that I liked, that I shared previously. It was this idea of everybody having their own batteries, right? And the kind of energy containers is just a simple visualization that I like sharing, because people start clicking on that. And usually, if you have your battery very low towards this red zone, um, when you do something for somebody, you don't do it for free. As I say, it's basically you expect something happening back from that other person, because you are giving away from a place where you're depleted already.
Yeah.
And the thing is that most people don't realize is that this battery refillment responsibility is only yours. There's nobody else that has to be doing that apart from you. And the fact that you start expecting somebody else to fill that battery is in itself codependency, essentially. And basically, once you start realizing that, okay, that's my responsibility to fill that up, whatever that means for you, because that's unique to every person, once you start refilling that by yourself, once you give from a place of filled battery or cup or whatever you call it, it starts becoming free, because you have so much in yourself that you're able to give away without expecting anything in return, and that clears out all your relationships. Basically, it makes them much healthier. You don't have that expectation, and it kind of, yeah, but that to do that, you need to establish boundaries. You need to be able to create that container for yourself, so that that battery doesn't leak in every direction, right? So basically, it's yeah, you're the boss of your own energy or battery, or responsibility of your own battery. And that's usually what people start clicking on when they hear that.
Yeah, and then if we mix that with all that you shared before of the self-awareness, being in your body, connecting to the
Mm.
inner and outer rhythms, then we start to zoom out and maybe see the patterns of like, oh my God, I've been doing it. My dad's been doing it. This is what I know.
Yeah,
This is what feels familiar. But can I do something that makes me feel uncomfortable for a minute because it's new? And I'm not the biggest fan of the idea of harsh boundaries and I need you to whatever, but
yeah,
boundaries in a way of, okay, I can step back to find clarity. I can communicate it and find a
exactly.
way. So something a bit more fluid and soft. But
Hmm.
then breaking out of the pattern and doing something really unusual. And if we're not going into extremes, maybe it's not the boundary of I need to be alone for the weekend, but maybe to say to my partner, can you take me outside for a ride and we don't speak and we just put on music and can we just breathe and recalibrate? I need your help. Maybe you
Yeah.
want to incorporate the person and not create this recharging, which can only happen by myself. It can happen by
Yeah.
myself, but finding like
Yeah.
10 different ways of recharging.
So true. That is interesting actually, because especially in relationships, sometimes you don't have that opportunity to create that alone time like all the time, it's a more difficult thing to do. So physically, just with things that happen in the life, work, even kids and things like that. But still, there is ways you can arrange it, and I love that. It's way more a way more flexible way to look at it, and it's also a bonding experience. I think at the end, you don't have to bond by talking all the time. Just presence is enough sometimes. It's the sense of that person is with me without having to communicate physically, verbally sometimes, I guess. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Hmm. Is there anything else which you feel like we haven't talked about, you want to address for today? Lots of
Yeah.
beautiful things.
Yeah, there's a lot. Now let's see how how far we've come. Hmm, nothing pops to mind right now. But if you have anything that you would like to share, or anything you'd like to talk about.
Maybe just, let's do a little practical exercise how we started. Maybe you can finish this way, and we can always
Yeah,
jump on another call and explore topics.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
If we just change our position for a second, just assuming a different body position that we've just had, arriving fresh, whatever it is, feet on the ground, feet up cross-legged, or standing even, lying down, taking a breath, maybe just asking yourself to let go mentally of the learning, but to just look into the ahas. What really spoke to me? Was there maybe one thing that I deeply thought that was right for me that I can actually do? And to bring this insight maybe into your day today. Choose whatever it was, maybe to apply resetting and going for a walk if you need to, or to do the somatic, looking outside and connecting with something, an object, and recalibrating that we're part of nature, whatever little thing, little tool. And can I do something today? So it's not just the thing I've heard and then I forget it, but I'm doing it. I'm benefiting from it, and I'm maybe sharing it with someone else who needs it. And in this sense, I would love to just for 1 minute give you a little glimpse of this theta state. We talked about subconscious rewiring a little bit, so just relax, maybe lean against the chair. Don't do this if you're driving a car. Make sure that you're just sitting somewhere steadily and just take a breath in, just relax. We're getting a tiny little glimpse, not hypnotizing, not being out of control, just relaxing. And would you like to know that it's safe and possible to break a pattern? That you're capable, able, and worthy to break patterns of the past, even patterns you've taken on from generations before, knowing that you're still a good person, you're still part of your family, you're still honoring your parents and the elders of your family, you're still honoring yourself and knowing yourself. But now choosing to recognize some of these patterns in relationship and connection in terms of boundaries and needs and our batteries, and that you find ways, natural ways, efficient ways, how to shift and change, creative ways that aren't full of effort, that don't take time, that don't hurt anyone's feeling, but that maybe bring more enrichment to you and the other person as well. That you know how to do this, that it's safe and possible to do this, that you already find yourself doing and implementing these changes, and that you have the awareness to recognize this shift and to see it and to welcome people into your life who maybe are helping you, aiding you, or already breaking their patterns to inspire you. If this feels right, maybe just say yes.
Yes.
Followed by a deep breath. Just relax. Nothing needs to happen. Yes, relax. And would you like to expand your view of what patterns are in general and what your patterns are? That you have the highest definition, truth, understanding, a deeper understanding, the purest and most holistic view of all the patterns that you've developed, and that you viscerally can feel them and embody patterns that are really meant for you in the here and now, and release the patterns of your past selves who had different fears, different needs, different goals than your current self. That you know the difference between your now self and your past self, and your goals and wishes, and that you also intuitively will know the patterns that are serving you, the patterns that are outdated that you can simply drop, and the patterns that need upgrading and a slight alignment shift, a slight pivot. And that you already know how to make this decision, you have the highest discernment, and that you will let your body feel into this, and that you allow to actually make your choice of how to move it, how to shift it through the body, by what feels right, and allowing the mind to play along, knowing that you can trust yourself and trust your body and even trust your patterns, knowing they're not working against you, but you simply have to sometimes delete the bin of the outdated ways of being and make room for the new. If you would like this, then mentally or aloud, decide, make that choice consciously, followed by a deep breath.
Yes.
Relax. And then place your hands on your arms or somewhere on the body. Feel into yourself. And maybe after this moment here together, find a moment to write something down that you would like to do or try out or reflect. Maybe you had an insight. Maybe an insight is to come. So just follow your ideas, your insights without hesitation in the next couple hours and observe. Maybe you're being triggered and that's how you see it, or maybe you naturally apply some of this and let yourself be surprised.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Just a little something.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful.